I'm really excited for Chucker's podcast this week. He's got John Wilcomb, who did Walk On Warrior. If you haven't checked out that podcast, he interviewed him quite a while ago, but that was a great interview. And this time he's got John back with Travis Diener, who helped take that D-Wade Marquette team to the Final Four. He had an amazing pro career. Is just a great storyteller about his time in basketball, playing in the NBA, playing on that Marquette team, playing overseas in Italy. Just a lot of fun to listen to their conversation. We also wrapped up our Pioneers collection, celebrating Black history over the last month, and had so many fun interviews. If you haven't got a chance to check those out, we had Jesse Washington starting the week and the month, and we ended with the Globetrotters, Thunder Law, breaking 11 Guinness World Records. So lots of great interviews. Thanks for joining us, and now let's get on to the interview.
Jim, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all there.
John, Travis, thanks for joining us here on the 99 podcast.
Pleasure to be with you, Chucker. Looking forward to it.
Happy to be on.
All right, cool. So, fellas, March Madness is already upon us, the greatest time of year. How are we feeling about college hoops this time of year? Does it bring up good memories, painful memories, or a bit of a mixed bag? What do you guys got to say about that there?
Brings up great memories for me. I mean, the fact that Marquette is having the season that they're having, I think they are ranked 11th, as of today. Just having an amazing season. They're right on the cusp of hopefully winning a Big East regular season title, and we'll see if they can translate that into the tournament. But as a Marquette alum and obviously a lifelong fan, it's been fun to watch their development under Shaka.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Travis? What does this time of year kind of stir in you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best time of the year. This is when there's only a few weeks left in the season, and then every game seems to matter a little more come the end of February, early March. We get in conference tournament time, and then obviously the big dance. So back from my playing days, when I was at Marquette, there's a lot of great memories from March, and also some disappointing memories, which I think is the life of many college basketball players. You take the good with the bad, but ultimately, it's 20 years to the season that we had that magical run to the tournament. So it's been a good run down memory lane here the past couple months.
Yeah, cool, man. Hard to believe 20 years. Goes quick, doesn't it? Doesn't it, man? So you two were teammates at Marquette, John the walk-on, Travis the star guard. What was the relationship like between the two of you back then?
Yeah, it's funny because I played Division II basketball my freshman year and then transferred, and pretty much at that point was going to give up playing, and ended up working some Marquette summer camps, and would scrimmage with the guys occasionally, and then eventually was asked to be on the team, and really was given one direction, which was just to do anything in my power to make Travis better in practice. And I think a lot of walk-ons probably get that request, which is, don't hurt him, push him hard. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's your contribution to wins in the program. And so, for me, it was a real privilege being around someone as good as Travis was at that point. You're around a guy like that is as good as he was at that point in his career. I think his junior season, he was one of a couple players to average like 18-8 in the country. And so to come off a junior season like that, to be kind of on everyone's radar as a senior, have the ball in his hands. And we had a young team kind of around Travis. There was probably even more pressure on his shoulders to perform, and he certainly did that.
Travis, John said his job was to push you but not hurt you. How'd he do?
Well, I got hurt my senior year, so but it was not because of him. It was because of my own misfortune. But, there's always, for me, there was always a lot of respect for the walk-ons because, it doesn't come with a lot of notoriety, and they're in there to make, us better, knowing that they're not going to play many minutes when the lights are the brightest. So, I always had a great relationship with walk-ons only because I saw myself in that type of work. I never saw myself, I think, as a an All-American type player. I think I had to have a certain work ethic with, my stature and who I was as a player, that, a lot of the walk-ons that came through the program, that come through Division One, are there because they love basketball. They have no dreams of really playing a lot of minutes, but they're there to make us better, and that's a selfless act. And so always appreciated those guys pushing me to be a better player.
So let's get right into it. John, the book is No Fear in the Arena, Travis Diener's Unrivaled Leadership and Competitive Drive. It dropped last December. What about Travis's story was so compelling that you wanted to write a book about it?
Yeah, I think for me, I was kind of stumbled into authorship. I'm not a journalist by trade like you are. I never thought I would write, a book, much less two. That kind of all goes away when you're writing about something that's personal to you, about someone that Travis and I grew up a couple hours from each other. There were games even before Travis and I played together that, I attended even as a fan. And so there was a lot there. And I think one of the things that to me makes this book just so fun to read is we interviewed a lot of people. And so, originally this was like going to be written. I was going to be Travis. I was going to almost ghostwrite it for him as him. And as that's hard to do when every time you write something, you're like, is this really like what Travis would have said or how he felt about this? And so it's tough to write a biography or autobiography that way. And so we pivoted and we ended up interviewing, I don't know, probably 20, 25 people. And one of the best things about, hardwood history and just basketball in general is when you hear the enthusiasm in some of these people's voices telling stories from 15, 20, 25 years ago about, certain moments in the gym, different atmospheres overseas, certain NBA games, etc. And that ultimately makes it really fun as a writer because I'm thinking, I know exactly where this is going to go in the book or how to piece this together. But that was really a real treat for me.
And so do you have the idea for the book and then you go to Travis with it, or how did that kind of the inspiration, the light bulb come to be, so to speak?
Yeah, so I had the idea for the book just because Travis's career, number one, has lasted a tremendously long time. Travis hit a shot to win $1 million 3 years ago in the TBT. Most people don't know that, but if you're watching that on ESPN, it's like, is this guy still playing basketball? And this is after the NBA. This is after playing in Italy. This is obviously after playing with me at Marquette. And so there's just so much more to all of that. And anytime you've been around the game as a professional for, 16, 17 years, I really wanted to dig into that. And knowing where Travis came from and certainly where he got to made for a really interesting story.
And so Travis, John comes to you, says, hey, man, I'd love to write a book about you. Did you have reservations about that, or were you kind of all in from the get-go?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think I was all in right away. I think, what John alluded to earlier was, we had a major pivot early on in the process only because John had written probably 30 or 40 pages coming from me. And when I read that, well, he did a great job doing it. It just didn't feel like it was authentic enough to come from me. So we made the pivot. I said, I kind of told John, look, if we're going to do this, I think the best idea is to get kind of the 15 to 20 most influential people that have been around me through my journey, and let's talk to them. And they can give you stories, and I can kind of give you, what I thought when I was going through this whole process, but I think it'd be better coming from other people. So that's when I really got on board. And, he contacted me right after the bubble. So that was in 2020 about the book. And obviously we just published it, a couple months ago.
So John, what was the big thing that you really wanted to communicate in sharing Travis's story? What did you really want to get at here?
Yeah. So, I think any good book, it's ultimately like, okay, this is cool, but like what's in it for, not for me, but for the reader? What can people take from this? And I think what you see in a lot of these stories is just, there really is like an unrivaled competitiveness from a very young age. And so you talk to Travis's parents, you talk to his sisters, you talk to his uncles. There's stories that it's like, hey, here's $10 for Christmas, but I'm going to take it away unless you go outside and hit 8 out of 10 free throws in, the middle of December. There was an unbelievable competitive drive kind of within this family. And you see it come out in a lot of, fun ways. And obviously that translated to the court as well. But I think one of the most fascinating parts about this whole book is, Travis grew up down the street from his cousin Drake. Drake started at DePaul, same time period, same age. And the fact that these guys go in different directions as professionals, and then eventually, in their late 20s, 30s, team up to really form one of the elite backcourts in Europe. That's a pretty special thing when you grow up in a town of, 25,000 people in Wisconsin, to be playing, at that type of level in Italy. And Travis had his jersey retired there. I think Drake's the all-time leading scorer in the Italian league. So these guys weren't just cousins playing well. They were playing some of the best basketball that had ever been played in Italy.
Yeah, exactly how you and Drake drew it up, right, Travis?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about Travis's story. For both of you here, what are some of the key stories that you feel really exemplify this book's theme, its mission? Just what are some of the fun stories you think that really kind of characterize who Travis is and what he's about? High school, college, when he's younger, to the Italian league. Just what are some of those stories that you think are really kind of fun you were really happy to tell and fun to dig into and fun to kind of reminisce about?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was interesting and a lot of fun just remembering some of these things coming from other people that I kind of, when I went through, I just never paid attention. I was kind of seeing it through how they saw it, which is totally different than probably how I saw it. And I was just being who I was kind of, I think, maniacal in terms of competition and taking everything extremely serious when it came to competition. What John was talking about the Christmas with Drake, that was Drake. My uncle would give him $10, and if he went out and made 9 out of 10 free throws, my uncle would double the $10 to 20. If you made less than, then you'd take the money, to take the money back. So it's a little. I mean, it was as simple as that. I think the one story that was kind of fitting for our family was I forget what holiday it was, but we always went to my grandma's house, who was literally like 6 houses down from where I lived. So spent a lot of time at my grandma's house, who's still alive, over 100 years old. But we played this game called Spoons. It's this card game, and everyone in the family would play. And if you lost, I mean, it was Christmas now, because now it makes sense. If you lost, the loser had to go sit on the porch in the cold, in the snow. And the game would take a while because there's probably 30 people playing. So it ended up, you didn't want to lose early. So it ended up being me and my sister at the final two. And the final two is basically just luck. It's the first one to get like 4 of a kind is going to grab the spoon and you're going to win. But I think my sister got 4 of a kind first, and she kind of reached to touch the spoon. And I kind of just jumped on the table, and the table just, broke in half. So it was kind of, that's a funner story, fun story to tell. But there was still some I'm not going to lose to my sister. I'm trying to win this. But it was, the fact that a table was broken in my grandma's house kind of shows the competitiveness, not just for me, but my whole family.
When did you realize, let's stick on that theme, when did you realize maybe you were cut from a different cloth in that regard compared to some of your peers, especially in the basketball sense? Was it high school? Was it a little later on? When did you realize, I'm a little different?
I think it was earlier than that. I think you can tell, you're 10, 11 years old and you play basketball games, and it you get so caught up in the game and the emotion of it, and it pains you to lose, and then you see how other kids react to winning and losing, and you're like, well, why don't they care? Not that they didn't care as much, but they weren't showing that they cared. So it made me feel like, okay, well, they don't care as much. And it probably was, a lot to do with, I put, and I'd go with a lot of my cousins and my sisters, we put a lot of time into basketball. So naturally, when you put a lot of time into something, it should mean a lot. And these other kids weren't doing that, so why would it mean as much? But when you're young, even when I was in college, it was hard for me to relate to other opponents or players that didn't take basketball as serious or take winning and losing as serious as I did. So I think I felt at a young age, I was extremely competitive, almost to a point where, outside the basketball court, I was ultra competitive in things that really didn't mean anything. And that's when it's like, holy shit, this guy he's a little crazy.
John, from the competitiveness of Travis is kind of the overarching theme of the book. And so give me a story that you think really kind of exemplifies Travis's competitiveness and really kind of hits at that.
So Travis was playing in Italy, and they were playing as part of the Euro Cup in Belgrade, Serbia. Probably one of the most raucous environments in the world, based on all the people that I talked to, multiple leagues, people in different parts of the world, really. And Travis's cousin Drake told me that he had played there a couple times and was literally escorted with police escorts, even like out of the airport and into a van and into the arena, and it's pretty serious stuff. But Travis and team were playing there. I think Travis hits a shot right before halftime, tie the game. It's halftime, okay? But everybody in the crowd just starts raining things down. We're talking about bottles and even things like car keys, basically whatever they can get their hands on. So it's just this, everything's coming down. Travis's coaching staff, his team, everyone's yelling like, get in the tunnel, get over here, watch your heads. And this guy just tells a story about how everyone's in this tunnel looking out, and there's one individual that is still standing at basically half court, like screaming at the fans, which is the third person on this call. And I thought, to me, this guy telling the story was basically like, that moment, I wanted to be that type of a competitor. Like, I wish I had that dog in me too, was his exact quote. And I thought, what a cool story to exemplify that. Obviously, at the time, it was probably a little scary and dangerous. But, if you would have been there watching that from that tunnel, it's probably something you would have remembered, 15 years later too.
I think you bring up a great thing, which is something I want to ask you about, Travis, is you have competitiveness, and with that comes aggressiveness and effort, but it also has to be under control. So how did you kind of find that balance between a guy who went 100 miles an hour, but yet there was still control to your game because you got to knock down those shots and you can't turn the ball over? And so where was the line for you, and how did you kind of find that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I think I actually think I played better when I was angry. I think I had a more of a focus when I was mad. So you'd create these like scenarios where, even in your own mind, you kind of I'd make myself angry at something, someone, somebody. Maybe in this case in Serbia, it was the fans. Because I think I focused in better. That's why I always loved playing on the road, because it was always, it was always amped up environment. I felt not as comfortable. So I think it was just different to put myself in a place where I had a chip on my shoulder that was more anger than anything. And that's when I really felt like I was focused. And I don't think a lot of people are better that way. I think a lot of people, when they get angry, they play worse. I think I was just one of those guys. I had to have that chip, had to have a little, piss and vinegar in me to play at my highest level.
Give me a sense of your college career, Marquette. Is there an example that jumps out to mind where you say, here was an example where I had that anger, I had that piss and vinegar, it was this game?
Oh, it was this probably is a good story, and I don't even think this was in the book, but I would just get so angry at things that you shouldn't be angry about. So we were in a drill, and we were playing 2-on-2 in practice. And I go in, I think my team's winning. I go in and I make a layup, and so I should be like, oh, we scored. I should be happy. But as the ball is going through the net, I grab it, I jump up and grab it, and I just throw it as hard as I can with both hands. And Coach Crean is literally 8 feet away from me, and it just hits him square in the nose, shatters his glasses, and at that point I'm like, oh shit, like he's gonna like he's gonna kill me. And he kind of just like shook it off, and but that it I had no business getting angry. I had no business being mad. I just made a layup, but for something like that, I just something probably led to that moment where I was still kind of angry, and the making the layup didn't even matter. I was just probably pissed off at somebody, and that was my release, I guess.
So, John, you've known Travis for a while, going back, about 20 years. So what were you surprised to discover about him, especially as you really kind of dug into the story? And you think you know someone, but then you start peeling back the layers and you get a little bit more context, a little bit more perspective. What were you surprised to learn about your buddy?
I think one of the biggest stories that sticks out to me is simply, Travis had played it 5 years in the NBA. It's an amazing life. You're a backup, second, third string point guard, played some meaningful minutes in Indiana, and he had an opportunity to keep playing, and not only keep playing, but potentially keep playing closer to home in Milwaukee. And, rather than sign another NBA contract to play spot minutes in a second or third string role, he basically said, hey, I'm 27 years old. I'm in the prime of my career. I want to go and play meaningful minutes and lead a team to a championship. And I'm going to go to Italy to do that. I heard that and thought to myself, like, wait, what? Like, who would do that? So you walked away from millions of dollars to go do that. And so to me, that just kind of exemplified, we talked about just like love of the game. Why do we even do this? Why am I up at 3 a.m. writing this book? You do it because you love it. And I think, that was one of those things that just, it kind of touches your soul a little bit in terms of, I thought that was really cool. And obviously all the things that came after that, that's a huge part of his life, of his career, of his legacy, is what happened over in Italy. But that could have easily not happened as well, if he would have stayed in the NBA.
And Travis, from your perspective, what went into that decision of what John just recollected here? Could have stayed in the NBA, maybe been a second, third string guy. Could have had a nice career, but you decided to go to Italy. What was that decision like for you?
Yeah, I think we've talked, about my competitiveness, for pretty much this whole interview, and that it just came down to that. Like I wanted to play. I wanted to compete. I wanted to be put in a position where, when I played in the game, if I played well or didn't play well, that affected the outcome. And in the NBA, I was very honest and realistic with myself. At that time in my career, I would have signed a contract with the Bucks, and I would have been the third string point guard. And you're not going to play meaningful minutes unless two things happen. One, somebody gets hurt, which you're never cheering for, or somebody plays bad, and you're never cheering for that either as a teammate. So it was actually I think it sounds like a lot harder decision for most people, but for me it was pretty easy. It was time to go and play again and compete again. And as long as my wife was on board with that, and she was all about it, so it made it really easy. The only hard part was you're going across the world. You don't know what to expect. You've never been there. You don't know what kind of situation you're getting yourself into. But fortunately for me, I kind of knew who the coach was going to be because my cousin had played for him, and that's all I need to hear. And the rest kind of just took care of itself.
Cool. So we've talked a little bit about, early on in your life, Travis, into your college years, and then playing overseas. An effort like this stirs up a lot of memories, good and bad. So what did this project kind of create for you? As John's digging into some of these parts of your life, how did it kind of resonate with you?
Well, I mean, first it's very humbling. When John reached out, about, to think that you've had, a career. And for me, it was like, I want this to be cool because my kids can kind of read it and know exactly who I was as a person, as a player. And that was the neat thing for me. It's like, it really wasn't about, how many copies were going to be sold. It was more like I get to share this with my family. And then reading these stories from people that have been so close to me in the way they saw things. And so at times it was funny. At times it was very emotional, to hear what, the people you love the most think about you and how they saw you in good times and in bad, was very, it was a neat experience and something that, without, John doing this, it would have never happened.
Yes, it's almost, this sounds morbid, but it's almost like being present for your funeral, hearing what other people have to say about you, And so I'm curious then, Travis, let's stick along that lines. What was something someone said about you and you're like, I didn't know mom felt that way about me, or coach felt that way about me, or my teammate felt that way about me? What was something that really kind of jarred you a little bit?
I think it was the overall collective feeling of who I was as a player and as a person, as a competitor. I always felt I was a certain way, but I always knew like I was hard to play with. I was hard on myself, and to hear it when now that my career is over, from the people that I was alongside with, talk about who I was, as a leader, as a competitor, as somebody that they were going to battle with, was very fulfilling for me. And that's the only reason, probably the main reason I love playing basketball was that togetherness. That the thing I miss the most about playing basketball is being in a locker room. It's not the game, so to speak. It's going into the locker room before or after a big win or loss, and being part of something bigger than yourself. You can't find that in a lot of areas of life where you can share such highs and lows with other people. And these are our jobs, and you go into, you win a big game and everyone's happy and emotional, and then you lose a big one. And it's like, well, that sucks, but you're in it together. And then there's a feeling of, there's a lot of just different feelings. And those are the things I kind of miss the most.
Well, the book has been well received. It's a great story to share. I think you guys are onto something here, and I think it's important to highlight. In many ways, Travis, you're kind of the everyman. I think represent a lot of us out there. A 6 foot dude who's jacking up shots. So I'm glad we're able to highlight the book here on the 19.9 podcast. Before we get out of here, Travis, and specifically, I want to put you and the bright spotlight on you, Travis. John, jump in if you want here, but we want to hit you with some fast-paced run and gun style questions. All right, you ready? Who was the player you tried to pattern your game off of?
For me, it was Dan Dickow, who was a few years older than me. I actually played him when I was a freshman at Gonzaga. Scott Skiles was another one, and Mark Price. Those are guys that I watched film. I watched film on throughout my college career, and kind of had similar games to them, and guys I tried to emulate in my play.
Favorite college arena you ever played in? Take any Marquette arena off the table.
Freedom Hall in Louisville. They had Pitino. They had really good teams when I was in college. We had a lot of success down there, but over 20,000 people, rabid fan base, electric atmosphere to play in.
What about you, John? When you were that walk-on, what did you think? Like, well, this is a pretty cool place to be in.
Yeah, I just love the stories from Louisville because Louisville fans are enthusiastic, to put it lightly. And, the fact that Travis's parents would drive from Wisconsin down there, watch the game, drive back, and his dad would go straight to work. Travis actually never lost a game at Freedom Hall, which is pretty crazy considering every time they played, Louisville was ranked in the top 10, I think, all 4 years.
Well, we talked about the Louisville fans. What were the wildest fans you ever encountered?
Well, John touched on it earlier. The fans in Belgrade for that game were, it was, what I did at halftime was stupidity at its finest. But you get caught up in the moment. You're kind of naive to what's going on. You don't think anything bad's going to happen because you're playing a basketball game. But then, you look around and there's 200 to 300, military personnel there that are, carrying, heavy artillery. So it's like, maybe I should have been a little smarter with how I was acting, but it didn't work out anyways. We lost the game. So that story, could have had a better ending.
All right, you're part of that great Marquette team that makes a Final Four run in 2003. There was a guard on that team named Dwayne Wade. Not too shabby. Had a nice career. What's your favorite memory of that Final Four run in 2003?
Yeah, like I said, it's not any particular game, any particular moment. It was the shared experiences. Actually, in the tournament, we didn't fly anywhere because we were located so close for our tournament games. So we took the bus from Milwaukee to Indianapolis for the first two games, and then we took the bus from Milwaukee to Minneapolis for the Elite Eight the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games. So it was those stories that were told on the back of the bus, joking with each other, making fun of each other, just basketball players having fun. And those are the moments you miss the most. Those are the things you look back on. Obviously, everybody remembers certain games, the Kentucky game. But I think for most players, it's more about the experiences that you get to share with one another.
Yeah, I'm going to stick on this as a competitive guy. And we've talked about your competitive streak here. Was there a team you took a little extra juice in beating?
Oh, Wisconsin. For sure. For sure.
Gotcha. All right. I'm curious about a drill let me back up here. You told Wisconsin. Why Wisconsin? Did they not recruit you? Did they overlook you? Was that the school you wanted to go to? Why Wisconsin?
No. No, I had a scholarship offer from, it pretty much came down to Marquette, Wisconsin. We're 60 miles away. They've had a lot of success, especially recently. And just, a lot of my friends went to Wisconsin. So it's like, it's just one of those games that I circled on the calendar when the season came, you always kind of knew when you're going to play them, but just took an extra motivation that only because I knew I'd be seeing a lot of people that would talk about that game for the rest of my career, the rest of my life.
I love it when a competitor doesn't hesitate whenever I ask that question. A team you took a little extra pleasure in beating, because when you don't hesitate, that shows you're a competitor. I never buy the line like, oh no, every game's the same. It's just one of, 20. No way.
No, that one
No way,
a little
man.
more.
All right, give me a drill. I'm curious about this one. I got a young little hooper in my household. A drill you did maybe a little bit early on in your game, when you were maybe elementary school or so. A drill you did that you thought really improved your game and laid a great foundation.
I was very the game is totally different now. These kids nowadays are so much more creative. They're more skilled than they ever been. So I was very basic with how I worked out. It was all, the catch, one dribble right, pull up, catch, one dribble left, pull up, shot fake, one dribble right, shot fake, one dribble left. Those my uncle would lay out a shooting workout for me and my cousin Drake. Take us about an hour to do. He'd have all the 10 shots at all these spots. These are the things I want you to do, and that's all we did. And it was boring. It was repetitive, but it was kind of why both of us were so fundamentally sound in playing basketball. And we weren't ever going to wow you with these incredible, spectacular moments, partly because, we weren't playing above the rim. But, we're very technical in how we play. We, didn't turn the ball over a lot, could shoot the ball. And that was a product of all this stuff, starting when I was, 4, 5, 6 years old.
John, I'm going to pull you in here. You've done quite a bit of coaching. I know that's part of your post-basketball life too. What do you think is a great drill for those young kids to do to really kind of improve their game?
I think it just ultimately comes down to can you handle the ball, and can you shoot the ball with decent form? And I think so many kids are chucking up shots from so far, and ultimately their shots all jacked up when they get older. So starting in close, develop good shot form, and then obviously be able to go both directions and dribble the ball with both hands. It's probably the key.
All right, Travis, let's hit back to you. I want to talk about individual opponents. Give me a dude you played against that was even better than advertised.
I played against, obviously a lot of great players in the NBA. I played against Sam Cassell, who had a good run with the Bucks, but after that, and wasn't very athletic, but was and liked to talk. And that was intimidating, especially because I was younger at the time. But even when he was in Milwaukee, those guys we'd kind of go over there sometimes. They'd come to campus and we in the summer times and play. But I remember getting matched up with him in the NBA, and he just killed me. And it was all like so basic. He was like 6'2", 6'3", but he had an incredible like mid-range post-up fadeaway, and I couldn't do anything about it. And he was somebody that I thought always was kind of underappreciated, even though he liked to talk. So he was always front and center, but I thought he was an incredible talent.
All right, then give me a guy whose game you really respected, maybe a guy that was a little bit more under the radar who really brought it on the court. A guy that you played against and you were like, damn, I got to go with this guy for 40 minutes today or 48 minutes, whatever the case may be. But maybe people didn't understand how good that dude was.
I don't know if this guy he was really good, but it was Nate Robinson. And he was a problem for me only because for most of his career and my career in the NBA, he was with the Knicks, and they just gave him free reign to do whatever he really wanted. So it was really difficult to guard because there was really no structure to what he was doing. And he was quick, he was fast, he could shoot, he was explosive. And I had, I wasn't going to stop him. And so when he got it going without any sort of restrictions, it was very, very difficult to guard.
All right. And finally, Travis, the book really paints you as the everyman. Here you are, this dude who grows up in the middle of Wisconsin. You're not 6'8" with this long wingspan. You're 6'1". You rather easily blend into a crowd. How often in your life have you played the Billy Hoyle role from White Men Can't Jump, jumped into a pickup game, and just roasted dudes?
Yeah, that's fun. It's fun.
Because
unfortunately,
you look like any other dude in my pickup game.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I play pickup now, everybody, the guys I'm playing with all know who I am. So I don't really find too many random pickup games. But back in the day, yeah, I mean, I could blend in with anybody. Like you said, I'm a 6-foot white guy. Very unassuming. So, that's what it's funny you brought that up because that's what I always took pride in. Even when I was a little kid, you go into these environments where you're playing against bigger, faster, stronger guys that are really talented. And they look at me and they're like, well, obviously he can't play because look at him. He's small, he's short, he's skinny. And that's, I think, where it first started, where I can show you that, I can play this game at a high level and I'm going to compete. And, ultimately my team is going to beat your team. And I took a lot of pride in that. And I think that's the only thing that ever really mattered to me was, the fact of, sports in basketball or any sport, it's pretty black and white. It's either you win or you lose. And I never took, there's no really such thing as a moral victory when it came to winning and losing.
John, you kind of giggled when I asked that question, but I'm curious, like, in the course of writing this book, or even just from your own personal experience with Travis, did you see a moment where someone really underestimated him and then they paid for it?
I just think like we kind of talk about some of this at the beginning of the book, but this goes back to like 1999. Travis is a nobody, and he's playing in the summer Nike Peach Jam. So at the time there weren't multiple AAU tournaments, there was one. And basically there was a team from every state. So you had guys like Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler and, all these amazing players like playing to win this championship. And, game after game, Travis is matched up against, again, bigger, faster, more athletic kids from big cities across the country with, big rankings next to the name. And it's just like win after win after win. And all of a sudden, Wisconsin Playground Warriors win the whole thing. And people are like, who the heck are these guys? And so, I talked to the team that they beat, Illinois Warriors, who had, it was like 8 Division I recruits on that team.
Yeah.
And some of the things that were said were like, who the F is on this team? I mean, it was just, they were kind of just shocked at the outcome of losing to this Wisconsin team in the championship with essentially 0 ranked players at the time. And obviously, those guys would be ranked in a hurry following that tournament.
Hey, thanks, John and Travis, for playing along with that. Again, the book is No Fear in the Arena, Travis Diener's Unrivaled Leadership and Competitive Drive by John Wilkham. John, Travis, thanks for joining us here on the 19.9 Podcast.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for listening to the 19.9 Podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do. And while you're at it, leave us a rating or review. 5 stars only, like the basketball camp. We also have links to all of 19.9 social media so you never miss a release. Until next time.